Hello and welcome back to another SHSAT review. Today we're going to be reviewing the grade 9 sample questions from the 2021 SHSAT student handbook. I think the DOE really messed this one up because I think they stapled two books together, so there's a stupid amount of pages. Save yourself the time of scrolling. Just skip to page 470 if you want to follow along. The link to this book will be in the description. From when I took the test, I think these are pretty similar to the questions I had, if not a little easier or harder. So if you're really good at this, you could understand these questions like that straight off the bat, you should be set for the test. So this is a very accurate representation. That being said, let's start with number 1. Okay. So the side length of a certain square microchip is expressed in scientific notation as 1.2 times 10 to the power of negative 3. If the area of this microchip is expressed in scientific notation as b times 10 to the power of a square meter, what is the value of a? So we are given that it's a square, and we want to find the area. We know that the area of a square is equal to side squared. So in order to find the area, we're going to have to do 1.2 times 10 to the power of negative 3 squared. And we can actually rewrite that as 1.2 squared times 10 to the power of negative 3 squared. And since we're only looking for a, since we're only looking for the exponent of 10, we can simply cross out b, which is 1.2 squared. So now we can only focus on this. If you know exponent rules, when we can just simplify this with our simple rule. We multiply what's on the outside by the inside to simplify it. So 10 to the negative 3 squared is the same thing as saying 10 to the negative 3 times 2, which is going to be 10 to the power of negative 6. Remember, we're not looking for 10, we're only looking for negative 6, so the answer would be negative 6. Yeah, so remember that rule. You have to multiply the outside by the inside in order to simplify it. Okay. Based on the results of those who do not use SOAP L, x% use SOAP M, what is the value of x expressed as a whole number? Okay. So the key thing to take away is based on the results of those who do not use SOAP L. So our answer, and since we want our percent is going to be part over whole, or, you know, expected value over whole, whatever you want to do it, it's going to be p over h. And right here it says our h is going to be out of people who don't use SOAP L. So automatically we can just completely forget about these numbers. So our total, our h, is going to be equal to 246 plus 136, which is equal to 400. Now we want our part. X% use SOAP M, so our part is going to be SOAP M. So P over H, that's going to be 264 over 400. If we simplify that we get turned into 2 over 3, which is roughly equal to 0.66, goes on forever. If we want to convert this into percent, it's going to be 66%. It just wants it as a whole number, which is just 66. So this is a fairly simple one. This is just 3 points. Just read the problem carefully and you'll get it. The value of the table represents a function. What is the value of r that makes the function linear? So without r, we don't know if it's linear or not. We have to make it linear, so we have to use the linear equation, or the linear equation, which is y equals mx plus b. B is our y-intercept, and m is our slope. If you forgot what a y-intercept is, it's when the x is equal to 0. A cool way to remember is by drawing out a nice little coordinate plane, labeling your axes. So the y-intercept is when we are going to intercept this line. So if we draw a line intercepting it, that's a bad line. Yeah, so if we draw a line intercepting it, you can see we intercept it around this point, which is when our x is equal to 0, or when it's on the origin. The same thing with our x-intercept. If we draw a line intercepting our x value, it's going to be near the origin when our y value is equal to 0. So that's a cool way to remember it if you forgot. But yeah. Anyways, let's start. So we need our slope. Slope is just y minus y over x minus x. So here's our y. That's 2 minus negative 1 over our x, which is negative 4 minus negative 1. 2 minus negative 1 is equal to, is just saying same thing as saying 2 plus 1, which is 3. Negative 4 minus negative 1 is the same thing as saying negative 4 plus 1, which is negative 3. 3 divided by negative 3 is going to equal to negative 1. We know our slope is negative 1. Now that we know our slope, we have one more variable left, so we can just solve for b. We have y equals negative x plus b. Let's just plug in this. Let's plug this in. So our 2 is equal to negative 1 times negative 4 plus b. 2 is equal to 4 plus b minus 4 minus 4. Negative 2 is equal to b. So now our formula is y equals negative x minus 2. Cool. Now that we have this, we can plug in these coordinates and solve for r. So r is our y value, so we can leave it as y. And then that's going to be 3. Negative x, so positive 3 times negative 1 is going to be negative 3. So y equals negative 3 minus 2. That means r is going to be equal to 5. Sorry, negative 5. So negative 5. Because negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5. Cool. Moving on. Or moving back up, I'd say. What is the distance in units between the points 3, 20 and 11, 5? There's a distance formula. It goes like so. x1 minus x2 squared. Oh, sorry. Whoa. Okay. x2 minus x1 plus y2 minus y1 squared. So this is our x1. This is our this is our x2, this is our y1. Sorry, oh my god. This is our x2, this is our x1. So we'll do 11 minus 3 squared plus, this is our y2, this is our y1, so 5 minus 20 squared. I'll square root him at the end. It's going to be 8 squared plus negative 15 squared. This is going to be 64 plus 225. This is equal to 289. So now we have radical 289, which is equal to 17. Cool. Moving on to 5, we have this formula. We want to find the solution, so let's just distribute everything. So we'll distribute 3. That's 3 times x, so that's 3x minus 3 times negative 4, which is negative 12. So 3x minus 12 plus 4x is equal to 4 minus x plus 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times x is 8x, so plus 8x. Combine like terms. 3x plus 4x is equal to 7x. 7x minus 12 is equal to negative x plus 8, which is equal to 7x. So 4 plus 48 plus 7x. Cool. So now that we have this, we can do 7x minus 12 is equal to, sorry, we can carry everything to one side. We can add 12 to the other side. So that's going to be 4 plus 48 plus 12, which is equal to 64. So 7x is equal to 64 plus 7x. Right here, we can move x to one side, minus 7x. We get 0 is equal to 64. This is not true, so that means that there is no solution to the equation. If you see two x values and they cancel out, always continue moving down, combining like terms, because if this turned out to be 2 is equal to 2, then there would be an infinite amount of solutions, because it's true. But since our inequality is not true, there is no solution. So just because you see both of them cancel out, don't stop there. Continue, solve it, and see if they're equal to each other. In this case, they weren't, so there's no solution. So which expression represents a rational number? Automatically, we could cross out pi. Cool thing to remember is that any radical, whose radicand, whatever it's called, radii, I don't know, is not a perfect square, will always be irrational. So for example, 3 is not a perfect square, so it'll be irrational. 83 is not a perfect square, so it'll be irrational. But if our x was perfect square, like 64, then it would be rational. Keep that in mind. It's always irrational if it's not a perfect square. So now that we have all those crossed out, we are left with 3 out of 8, which is the correct answer. We could actually check this. We can do 8 divided by 3. That's 0.0. Add a new 0 there. That comes in 3 times. 8 times 3 is 24. 0.3. That's going to be 6. 0. That's 7. 56. Minus 60 is going to be 40. 3.75, and that's it. So it's rational. So keep that rule in mind. The radical of a non-perfect square is always going to be irrational. I hope that made sense. I'm sorry. Alright, so we have even more exponent questions. Which expression is equivalent to 6 to the power of negative 10 over 6 to the power of 2? Whenever we have two exponents with the same base and we're dividing them, we can rewrite them. We can rewrite 6 to the power of negative 10 over 6 to the power of 2. Same thing is, we can rewrite it as 6 to the power of negative 10 minus 2. Remember, whenever we have the same base, we just subtract their exponents. Our denominator comes after our numerator. So numerator, this exponent, since it's part of the numerator, it'll always come first. So negative 10 minus 2 is negative 12, so we have 6 to the power of negative 12. We look here, it's not really an answer, but remember, whenever you have a negative exponent, it'll turn it into a fraction. So we'll have 6 to the power of negative 12 is just equal to 1 over 6 to the power of 12, which is B. Now we're moving on to number 8, which is which table below represents a linear function. So right here we can do like y minus x and all of that, but that takes far too long. So we can look for a pattern. Well, right here we have a pattern. Notice how slope is rise over run, which is just y over x, so we can just write it like that. When we go from negative 1 to negative 1 comma 3 to 0 comma 1, we add an x, so our run is going to be 1, and we subtract 2, so our rise is going to be minus 2. So now we can apply this here. We add 1, so now we have negative 2 comma 5 minus 2, which is 3. Okay. And then our next point, we add 1, so that's negative 1, comma, 3 minus 2, which is 1. So 1 comma 1, wait a minute, right here, negative 1 is a point. Right here we have negative 1 as a point, but our answer to negative 1 is 3 and 1. In a linear function, each point has a unique output. So no point is going to have two different outputs, or it's always going to have one unique output, and it's never going to have two similar outputs. So when we have negative 1, that's 7. When we have negative 1 outputting 1 and 3, that's not a linear equation. Each point has a unique value, so we can cross E out. We can apply our same trick here, where we're adding 1, so our run is 1, and we're subtracting 1, so our rise is minus 1. Apply this here. X, we're adding 1, so we're going, once again, we're left with negative 1. But we're rising minus 1. 7 minus 1 is 6. Remember, now negative 1 has an output of 4 and 6, which means it cannot be linear. But right here, look again. 3 has an output of -1 and 0, so it cannot be linear. We're left with G. And if you really wanted to solve it the way we solved it before, you perfectly can. For the sake of time, we're already at 15 minutes. This is taking far too long. So take my word on it. It's linear. Just remember that in a linear equation, one point, it always has its own unique place. Nothing is ever duplicated. Nothing is ever the same, except for the origin. Except for the origin. Alright, number 9. The diameter of biological cell A is 6 times 10 to the power of -7 meter. The diameter of biological cell B is 3 times 10 to the power of -8 meter. Which statement correctly compares the diameters of these two cells? Okay, so as you should know, -7 means that there are 7 zeros in front of this. And -8 means that there are 8 zeros in front of this. So the number with the less amount of zeros in front of it is going to be bigger. In this case, it's going to, if you have 7 zeros in front of you, you are going to be bigger than something with 8 zeros in front of you. So we know that cell A is bigger. So we can eliminate B and D because it's saying that cell B is 2 times greater, or 20 times greater. Now, it's saying the diameter of cell A is 2 times the diameter of cell B. If that was the case, then that means that we're just multiplying this by 2, which means that cell A would be 6 times 10 to the power of -8. No, it's times 10 to the power of -7, so that's wrong. We're left with C, 20 times. How come? Well, because if we multiply it by 2, we get 6 times 10 to the power of -8. But if we also multiply it by 10 to the, and then to the power of 1, since they have the same base, we add them. So that's going to be -8 plus 1 is -7, so we'll have 6 to the power of -7, which is correct. I hope you understood that. You could always split it up. In this case, I split it up into 2. I multiply it by 2 first, then I multiply it by 10. You could do it the other way around. Don't get mixed up with exponents. Soccer data. The data in the table shows the seasons of some players on a soccer team played versus the amount of goals they scored. Which conclusion is supported by the data? There are multiple outliers in the data set. Okay, so if you didn't know what an outlier is, it's something that doesn't belong. So if we have a set 1, 2, 5, 7, so no, that's 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7, and we also have 100 and 1000. And if we also have 0.0001. Out of these numbers, this is an outlier, this is an outlier, and this is an outlier. Because the majority of these are single digit numbers. So unless it's some crazy number, there really isn't going to be an outlier. So look here, are there any crazy numbers? Not really. I'm not seeing anything above 10. And this 6 to 10 is just 2 times this. So there's not any outliers here. If there was like 1 season played and 100 goals scored, that would be an outlier. Next, there's a positive association between seasons played and goals scored. Well, look, the more seasons you play, the more goals you score. They played 1 season, they scored 3 goals. They played 2 more seasons, they scored 2 more goals. They played 3 more seasons, they scored 5 more goals. And then they played 4 seasons, they scored 6 goals. So yeah, the more seasons you play, kind of the more scores you get. So there is a positive association. But let's just say you couldn't understand that. You were checking from H to E instead. Our next answer would be G. There's a negative association between the seasons played and goals score. This would mean that the more seasons you play, the less goals you score, which we just proved wrong. So it can't be that. And there's no association. Well, there is an association, because obviously if we played 3 seasons and scored 5 goals, we played another 6 seasons and scored 10 goals, there was an increase. So there is an association. So F. So be aware, don't overthink it. These are fairly simple. And that's basically it. 3 more. This is a very long video. I do apologize. What is the value of y when 0.25y plus 8 is equal to 15? Well, notice everything else is a whole number, and this is a decimal. That kind of messes us up. So instead of writing 0.25, we can just write 1 over 4. So 1 over 4 times y plus 8 is equal to 15. That's the same thing as saying y plus 8 over 4 is equal to 15. Oh, don't know why I deleted it, but alright, and either way, we have to multiply both sides by 4. These cancel out. We have y plus 8 is equal to 60. We subtract 8 from both sides, we get y is equal to 52, which is D. I don't know, you could have also perfectly done it with decimals. I just think it's easier to work with a whole number that you can multiply and divide by. Okay, what is the volume in cubic inches of a beach ball with a diameter of 24 inches? So you should know that the volume of a sphere, a beach ball is a sphere if you didn't know, is 4 over 3 times radius cubed times pi. That is the formula, remember that. On my test, this kind of geometric sphere volume problem didn't show up, but it may show up on yours, so memorize it. And all of the answers are in pi, so we can just cross pi out. We're just looking at 4 over 3 times r cubed. If our diameter is 24 inches, our radius is going to be this divided by 2, so we have 4 over 3 times 12 cubed. 12 times 12 is 144. 144 times 12, that is going to be 8. That's 8. That is 2. 0. That's going to be 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. Add this. That's going to be 8. 8 plus 4 is going to be 12, so 2 carry over the 1. This is going to be 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. We have 172. 1728. I'm a mess. 4 over 3. Now, we can multiply this by 4 and divide by 3, but that kind of takes too long. So let's see if this number is divisible by 3. A cool way of a division trick is for 3 is if all of these numbers add to a number that's divisible by 3, it's divisible by 3. So we can just add 1 plus 7 plus 2 plus 8. 1 plus 7 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. 10 plus 8 is 18. 18 is divisible by 3, so 1728 is also divisible by 3. Is going to be 5, 15, 22, 7, 21, 1, 8, 6. So that's 576. Now that we have these out, we have to multiply it by 4. That's 4. Carry over the 2. That is 0. Right? 28, because 28 plus 2 is 30. Carry over the 3. That is 23, which is 2304. Remember, pi, we already had pi in our answer, so it doesn't really matter. So 2304 pi. It's not really hard per se. Just memorize the formula and be ready to work with large numbers. Okay. How many integers of n satisfy the condition? So a lot of, sorry, let me get some space. So a lot of people see this, they get really confused because you're dealing with exponents and, sorry, you're dealing with radicals, and it's really unpleasant. But remember a rule that if you square a radical, they both cancel out and you're just left with the number. So if we wanted to get rid of the radical around radical 7, we just square it. So we can do the same thing here. In order to get n by itself, we can just square it. But remember, we're in an inequality, so whatever we do to one side, we have to do to both of the other sides. So we also have to square this, we also have to square this. So we're left with 25 is less than n, which is less than 36. So what numbers are between them? 26 is, 27 is, 28 is, 29 is, 30 is, okay, I don't know what it was. Okay, 31 is, 32 is, 33, 34, and 35 is. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 numbers are in between them. And you don't have to square root them, because even if you were to square root them, they'd still be in between them. It is what it is. Some problems like these do show up, So remember them. Thing to take away from this is know the properties of linear equations, know the properties of exponents, know always know like basic data sets, correlations, um, scientific notation, a big thing, and how to deal with percents and basic algebra. So if you had trouble with this, make sure to fresh up on those topics. Other than that, I hope you learned something. Have a nice day. Goodbye.